Elden Ring Nightreign should have failed. It had all of the makings of a disastrous game, but it didn't. The game was a massive success. And I literally just can't stop playing it. And if you were to look at this game and didn't see the From Software name attached to it, you would have seen a bunch of red flags. They took the name of Elden Ring and made an entirely different game than what the base game is. And it wasn't even an add-on to the game. The game's essentially just a mod. If you look at it from the outside looking in, that's what it looks like. They made an entirely separate game out of it with a new team and director that wasn't the main team for Elden Ring. And not only is it taking the name and assets of Elden Ring, but the director of Elden Ring isn't even working on this. It's another director, another smaller team, and in an interview, Miyazaki pretty much said this is a risk and they're doing this on purpose. They're doing this to learn from it. But when you hear that before a game comes out, that's like, it's not the first thing you want to hear. And they hopped onto a trend that is completely different than the base game. Souls games and Elden Ring are solo player games. This is a multiplayer-based roguelike. It lacked a lot of the core features roguelikes had, and it lacked the features that basic multiplayer games have today. Things that have been in multiplayer games for over 20 years. And it worked. The game is actually a huge success for them. There's a lot of people who love this game, including me now, and I think this game has a very bright future. This game in particular, their next multiplayer game for next year, and future games like this, because if they can do this without investing a ton of money, why not do it again? But I'll be honest, I was this game's biggest hater when they first revealed it. Straight up. I wanted this to fail. And just to give you a little context, my first Souls game was Elden Ring. I sucked at it. I hated it at first. Or I loved the world because it reminded me of Elder Scrolls. That was the closest thing to the game. It was just like Elder Scrolls, but 10 times the hardest difficulty of something like Skyrim. And so I love the world. I love that George R. R. Martin was attached to it. I love Game of Thrones. And the aesthetic was beautiful. The graphics were the best I've ever seen, but I sucked at Souls games. But yeah, and then I played Elden Ring, and then I got good and then I ended up loving the game. Fell in love with every part of the game, became obsessed with it. So I never got to experience a new From Software game from the release, like the build up to the game. So watching whatever showcase they revealed this in for the first time, to see From Software pop up and to see the Elden Ring aesthetic, I'm thinking it's another DLC or a sequel. And then they revealed the game and I'm super hyped. And then as more comes out about it, the same day or the following day, you learn it's a multiplayer based game. I wanted this to fail. We're taking a 3 or 4 boss mini DLC over this originally. I wanted more Elden Ring. I wanted more of the Souls experience. Not that I have played Elden Ring. I've gone back. I've played Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Sekiro's one of my favorite games. Played Lies of P, Souls-like, amazing game. I wanted more of that formula. And this was not that. This was the complete opposite formula of that. And I wanted this to fail so they would go back to making what they were. And then when they announced the Duskbloods, their next title was also a multiplayer-based game. Nightreign was a roguelike, and their next one was pretty much an extraction game. And again, another trailer. It looks like it's going to be a Bloodborne 2, and it turns out to be an extraction shooter for exclusively on the Switch. So again, I saw the From Software on the trailer that they show, watching it live, and then it turned out to be another multiplayer game. So I was pretty disappointed for a little while that they were taking a different route. But part of me did want to be wrong. But then I saw Marathon, another company, Bungie, who I played all the Halos and Destinies, and they hop on a trend of extraction shooters. It had some of the same red flags. They were hopping onto a trend. It was missing a lot of core features, kind of like Nightreign misses a lot of roguelike features. Their extraction was missing a lot of core features like PvE and game chat, similar to Elden Ring, no game chat. All the bosses were from Elden Ring or previous Souls games. Bungie reused assets, kind of like Elden Ring, although they literally stole someone's assets. Completely different. What I'm saying is different situation completely than From Software making this game. But it was another popular company who has made great games in the past that is trying to hop into a new genre that's popular nowadays. And their game went up in flames before it even launched. It's supposed to come out in September. It probably won't. So when I saw it happen, I was like, man, a little nervous for Nightreign. A multiplayer-based game with no game chat, no prox chat, no party system. There's no recent player system in the game. There's no crossplay. This game was also lacking a lot of core features that other games in this genre have and have had for a long time. And From Software, it deserved all of the benefit of the doubt. But Nightreign came out and its launch was a little bumpy. I think the game loop was very fun at first, but there were, again, at first, the people who don't follow the game's coverage and all of that they were not expecting, I think, for the game to lack the crossplay, the in-game chat, things like that they're just so used to. And there were definitely some issues with the balancing and matchmaking. When we would start the in-game quests like the Remembrance, it would mess up the matchmaking pretty bad at first, and the solos was just not balanced at all. Like unless you played Iron Eye and played super conservative, enemies were just sponges. But they came and they fixed all of that immediately. It was within days of release, less than a week. And that's just something I am not used to as someone who plays multiplayer games. Like I play a lot of Call of Duty. The only things they fix immediately within days of an issue arising is if there's an issue with their store, legitimately. If there's an issue with their microtransactions, there's an instant fix and patch. But if there's something with the balancing or a game-breaking bug, they will wait it out. They will wait for that week or two. And if it's holiday time, like if it's around the Thanksgiving, Christmas break, you're going to wait months for them to fix stuff. And now, like I mentioned, I literally can't stop playing and thinking about this game. So here's what I like about it. The gameplay loop itself is just extremely addicting. Like they have the remembrances and they have like the outfits and all that, and you can buy and upgrade your relics, but I just put on the best relics I get and I just go in. Like I buy some occasionally, but I found myself after one match just immediately wanting to queue back up. I don't even feel like looking into the quest for each character and doing all of that. I just want to keep playing and trying to kill the Night Lords. Like the gameplay itself is just fun, and that's the best part about this. You don't have to pay. Everything in the game can be earned, which is not heard of for multiplayer games in 2025 at all. Like there's not a single thing you can buy with money. And that's a huge bet. Like that's not just a huge bet financially for the company to do, but that's just a huge bet on your game. Like you're only betting on that the game fundamentally will be fun enough to keep bringing people back. That's a huge bet that not a lot of companies take nowadays. And the game's so fun. Like I don't even get that mad when runs fail. Like sometimes it is frustrating when you can't communicate with your teammates and the run's going really bad. It's extremely frustrating when you queue up and one of the teammates just isn't following you and is dying on his own. Like that's just go play solos at that point. Like those are the frustrating things, but like honestly, it's not even that bad dying to a Night Lord. And I've never played multiplayer on Elden Ring, and most of my friends are on console and I'm on PC, so I couldn't play with them anyways. So it was either solo runs or solo queuing for me. And I found that solo queuing is honestly the best way to play this game. And I've seen a lot of people say this too. Like, I think if you have 3 good Elden Ring players who all know what they're doing, if you have 3 builds that synergize together really well and you all know what you're doing, you're just going to overwhelm a lot of these bosses. But when you're solo queuing, there's like an RNG factor. Like, what kind of teammates are you going to get? How are they going to play? Because you don't know before going in. You can just see when they choose the character at the beginning. So there's like an RNG element that's kind of fun, like based on what kind of teammates they give you. And like trying to communicate with that system, as bad as the system is, it is funny trying to communicate and tell people things when you literally just have a single ping system. And the movement is also something that's just very fun. You can jump off anything, there's no fall damage, and you can scale every single wall just about, but with just a few jumps. And it's fun to learn the game so that you can teach people the game. Like, I learned the routes from playing over and over from other good players that we get matched up with. And now I'm the one taking control, teaching other players like the routes just by them following another player's lead. And it can be hard as hell to do it, but I'll get into the few shortcomings later. And solos is very doable now. They fixed the damage and they fixed a lot of things. The attention will always be on you. There's not 3 players, so it will always be harder, but it's definitely doable now. You can play the entire game solo. And like I mentioned earlier, I think this game has a very bright future. Not just because of the DLC they already have scheduled. I just think a lot of people are going to come back to this game when they have the itch for Elden Ring. I know I am. When the game's just naturally fun to play, you're just going to keep coming back. There's a lot of times when I have the itch for Elden Ring, but I just don't feel like doing an entire run. And there's no in between for me. Like, I can't just come back and pick up a run midway over and over. Like, to me, I either have to commit to the entire run or just not do a run at all. But with Nightreign, I can get a little bit of the Elden Ring experience, but just in a 45-minute match. And with this game reusing a lot of assets, even though that could be seen as a negative, and if Sony, Bandai, and FromSoft, like if this is just profits through the roof since they didn't invest a ton of money into this, I think you're going to see even more of this Nightreign experience. Like, just keep adding expansions. When you see other games like Monster Hunter and Elder Scrolls Online, when they had content from previous games and like themed expansions, like we could get like a Dark Souls 1 themed expansion or, or a Bloodborne expansion. They really could get creative with what they add into this game. Now, we'll go over the few things that I don't like, and the most obvious glaring issue is the party system and the connectivity of the game. And I think everyone who plays this would agree, even the most die-hard fans who only solo queue by themselves or with two randoms. I think everyone agrees. The multiplayer is just, they are lacking in this area. You can make the argument for crossplay, right? Because there's cheaters with PC. I could still see the argument for crossplay a little bit. But the fact that there's no in-game chat, a better ping system, or a way to add recent players, I just think that is one thing that's just inexcusable for 2025, when other games have been doing this since the early 2000s, late 90s. And the game also does lack some of the rogue elements. Like the games can get a little repetitive, and sometimes you don't feel like your character is getting that much stronger. Like the relics could definitely be better. And they could fix it to where the map alters more frequently, especially after you do all remembrances and do all that stuff. But that part is fixable. But the party aspect, I don't think they will fix. I have a bunch of friends who are on console. I could have convinced like a handful of my friends to get this with me if it did have crossplay, but it just doesn't. And I don't think that'll change, but I do think they will fix the ping system. I think that's something they have to change. Like, I'll never forget, there was a game I was playing where this guy was just swinging his sword in front of me. He was kind of wiggling the sword back and forth, and the guy was obviously trying to tell me something, and he was jumping up and down, like, in my face, and then moving his sword back and forth. And it was right before we were going into the Night Lord in the little safe space, and we ended up losing that fight, and I can't help but wonder, what did he want from me? Like, he was jumping and swinging his sword back and forth. I don't know what exactly he wanted. I'm wondering, like, could we have beaten that Night Lord if I had known exactly what he needed in that moment? But jumping up and down and moving your sword back and forth just doesn't tell me much. I'm going to be honest. I didn't have a sword to give him. Yeah, if they could fix the pings and maybe a recent player system, because you do come across really good teammates and you beat the Night Lord together. And it's like, man, I want to play more with you guys. And there's just no way to do that. Overall, I love this game, and this game should have failed. It was loaded with red flags. If you were to take away the Elden Ring and From Software names attached to it, just looked at it. There was a lot to be worried about when other games with those red flags have also failed in the past. But From Software took a huge risk, and Miyazaki let another young director come up and direct his own game. In an interview, he pretty much laid this all out and said they did this so they could take that risk, and there could be room for failure so they can learn and grow from it. Because he won't be able to direct every single game that they make. He already doesn't do that. But with their company expanding, this allows this group to learn and for there to be room for more games to be developed by them. So they took a huge bet, and it has paid off. And now I can't stop playing this game. I love it. I just want to queue into the next match. So yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you all enjoyed the game as well, if you are playing it. I make short content on gaming news, and I'll also be doing a review on this game from the perspective of someone who's not that great at Souls games and is a solo player primarily very soon. So check out the channel if that interests you. And I am glad I was wrong about this game. Dead wrong about it. I'll never doubt FromSoft ever again. So y'all will catch me on the Switch too for Dusk Bloods. Who needs money anyways? Peace.